We have a bunch of other people on who help run our free monthly FOSS user group, which used to meet live in Natick, Massachusetts, and now we're spanning a good piece of the world, thanks to the coronavirus. So some good things come out of bad things. Um, a lot of people will be watching this later on YouTube. That might also be a topic coming up later. Um, I will briefly open with the introduction for beginners, and that is what is FOSS? We are a FOSS user group in Natick, but what is FOSS? It stands for Free Open Source Software. That means free as in you don't pay for it, but it also means free in the sense that you're free not just to use it, but to recycle it into other things as well. That's the open source part. Open source means a programmer can look in and see the source code and take the source code and use the parts of it that will be helpful for another project. So unlike proprietary software, it doesn't cost us money. We can try 20 things, and there's a lot of them out there, and it doesn't cost money to try them and see which one or two we want to get good at. And for the programmer, they don't have to be working for the right company to work on a project. No company owns it. Everyone shares it. Like a language spoken, we can build on it. We can bend it to our purpose. We can use it without paying fees for speaking English. And that's the basic concept of free open source software. We get a lot of it quickly because it can build on all the pieces already out there. And in fact, it not only can, it must. If you build on free open source software, you're attaching that same license to keep it free to your software. That's going to come up today. We have some interesting new tests of how you read that. So that's my introduction. If you want to know more about it, just click on our archives page, click on our intro on the today agenda. There's a lot of ways you can get there. If you're not on our mailing list, just go to NatickFOSS.org, NatickFOSS.org, and you'll find there where you can click to find our archives. This meeting will be on it, probably by tonight, if not by tomorrow. And all our past meetings are on it. Well, at least a lot of them are. So enjoy and tell us if you want to get on the mailing list, and we'll bother you once or twice a month to tell you when you can look at the uploaded new version and when the next meeting is coming. That's it for the intro. Let me go back and see what I was doing over here. And let's see, you can't see my screen yet, I think. I have a gyp sheet I look at once a month and wish I'd practiced in between.
First, you need to share your screen.
Right. And to do that, I have to get down here to this one.
Yes.
And it takes two of us to think. We've been too busy.
It takes two of us to see.
That too. Let's see.
Select window.
And I guess the one I want to go to is...
No, the one you want to go to.
This one, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
And does that work? It didn't work, did it?
Oh, if you didn't share it yet. Allow.
Somebody's getting a phone call and it's not me.
Yes, no, it's me. I'm looking for the mute button.
Click on allow again.
That's what pillows are made for.
Click on allow.
No,
Yes,
no,
now
no.
go over to the other screen.
Yes.
There you are.
I won't ask questions. All right. Um, by the way, we're using Jitsi, which seems to work quite nice. Unlike Zoom, it's not tracking you and getting ripped off and things like that. Uh, and it works quite smoothly when you practice. Lately, I've been practicing once a month. Uh, so I'm rusty. Let's see. We've done the talk. On the news, um, I think I'd like to skip quickly and mention Windows at the very beginning. It's been the big news for the last 2 days. And Windows is telling, Microsoft is telling you, oh, a month and a half after we published the information online that there's a bug, we're now telling you to come get the fix and be in a rush and do it. And we're going to hear two sides of that coin later today. I just wanted to mention that at the beginning because I think it's on a lot of people's minds. And a lot of topics today all blur together into this general picture of the proprietary software becoming less reliable, or simply the news is getting out that it's been less reliable, and what to do about it. Well, for openers, let's see if I can get to my next one. Jill, I may want help here. Let's see. I am looking for this one. Oh, good. It's working by itself. And this just came in, I think, an hour ago. Best Buy is giving me a sales pitch on Windows 11. And what's the sales pitch? Windows 11 brings you closer to what you love. And I agree. I think they've added a bunch of new features that I've been enjoying in my version of Linux. But that is what I love. You don't have to go closer to it. And they're giving you 1 free year of it to get you hooked, because then you're going to be paying them every year to keep using it. So that's another reason it's only getting closer to what you love. Linux is it. I thought this was a great selling point for Linux. And indeed, for example, new features in Windows or old features in Linux. I have 4 different workspaces here, and one of them is showing my desktop wallpaper. But in my case, it's running my favorite slides as a slideshow for my desktop wallpaper. And it's running in 3 unassigned windows at the moment. And I'm playing in 1, which I'll go back to. So, yeah, Windows 11 is bringing you closer, but why not make the whole step? That's my sales pitch from their sales pitch. Let's see what else we had here. I guess I'm back to the one I was working. Whoops. Back to the one I was working on. I'm not used to that wonderful accordion there, but I guess I'll get used to it today. I'll fix it tomorrow. Okay. The FOSS news, the FOSS history, some of the software discussion, and a lot of the security, privacy, and freedom are all going to be singing the same tune. Let's start with one and see how common the message is this month. Largest active IRC network Freenode. Well, I use email mostly, but a lot of people use IRC, especially if they're helping to develop software. And the largest network of all was Freenode. That just stopped happening within weeks. And what happened was really interesting. This was a freeware program. It can't be owned by anybody. But damned if there isn't a Prince of Vietnam of Korea. I stand corrected. And this Prince of Korea has lots of money. I don't know where he's living at the moment, but he has lots of money. And he decided he'd take over Freenode. And he paid some people enough money so they agreed, and he's the nominal owner of Freenode. Now that can be argued, as we'll get into later today, but argue or not, he had a lot of money and lawyers, and the other people who support Freenode almost entirely simply moved over to Libera Chat, which is an alternative free open source software method for doing the same work. And they went there to do it. They're supporting it. They're not supporting Freenode. He owns a name. He owns one or two people who may still be supporting it. He may hire a few others. But the people who were helping to develop it have almost entirely moved to Libera Chat. And they went back on Freenode to tell people that's where they'll be. You can find them. The new owner said, oh, that's violating the new terms of Freenode. You've lost your license to use this free option, and we're taking your post away so nobody can see it. This is more the opposite of free open source software than most. And pretty much the word got around very quickly to the others. And now Freenode has in effect become Libera Chat, and he owns the name Freenode. And even the code for it is available, has already been copied several times. People can make copies of the older stuff. It was under a free license. And I think Freenode itself is about to become old news. This is one opener. It's something that shouldn't happen, something that can't happen. But when it did happen, it seems like it patched itself within a couple of weeks, and with just retribution to the guy who did the damage as well. Any comments on this one before I move on? Okay. Lenovo got in an interesting boat. They didn't quite plan it this way. Microsoft planned it this way. This is getting interesting. What Microsoft did is said, manufacturers will give you a good price on Windows if you bundle it into all the computers you manufacture. Make them all come with it. You'll get a better deal from us. And the manufacturers said yes, with a few exceptions, but most all the big names did. Well, the fine print on the license to you says if you're not using it, you can ask the manufacturer for your money back. Why not Windows? Why not Microsoft? The manufacturer, turns out, didn't have any money in its till for paying people back for something Microsoft forced them to put on. So some of them are happy to refund your money for your Windows license that comes with your new computer, and some are not. And most of them are caught off balance when you ask. Lenovo was taken to court in Europe on this, and in Europe, they mean business. They're on the user side. And as a result, Lenovo is paying 20,000 euros in damages and has to offer refunds of pre-installed Windows. If you'd like to get your refund, this next article in the batch is a very good one for someone who's just recently run his own experiment to get it back from Dell, not Lenovo. And you'll find a whole bunch of these. What I found really interesting is in the next section, FOSS history. And the history is about exactly this topic in 1999, and how the FOSS crowd staged visits to Microsoft and to a lot of companies and to a lot of stores and publicized and got a lot of publicity for this very problem: how to get your Windows refund if you don't use Windows. So it's not new. They're acting like it is. And Microsoft is at the heart of this one, not the manufacturers. It's a real interesting three-way with us stuck in the middle. But there are some tools now for coping with it that are better than they were before. All one topic, all those different kinds of articles. So if you just bought a computer, take a look at it. I think that's about it for that topic. I am going to ask everybody to keep their microphone off in Jitsi, and I'll go back to my Jitsi and look there. My Jitsi.
Right, you're going to have to
What?
unshare to get rid of that, unless you'd like to look at
Do I
mine.
have to?
In
Ooh.
order, Dick, in order to deal with this, you can't be using Chrome for both your presentation and your Jitsi. It's going to do this every time.
Oh, I thought we could. Okay.
No, aren't you you're using Firefox for both?
I'm using Firefox for both in this case today.
Same problem, different
Yep,
software.
Yep. Well,
But the microphone, if you put your cursor
Mhm.
near the bottom of the screen, it's the leftmost icon in the set of icons there. If you click on it, you'll mute yourself. Unless you're muted, in which case you'll unmute.
This is for everybody who's listening in. If you will unmute your microphone only when you want to speak, and mute it again the rest of the time, so we're not all hearing each other's background noise, making amplifying into a loud noise, then that will work. And I don't have to do it, I believe, for you to make that change. So only if you want to get my attention. And I'm going back to the other mode.
Bob Premack is asking, when and where did Microsoft say that Windows 11 will cost money every year?
These articles will cover where Microsoft says it. Let me see. The Windows tax refund one will say it very clearly. So I recommend that if you want to see the details on what Microsoft says and what the license says, which comes with your Windows, which is a little different from what they say officially. You can read them all, and you'll find out. Same old story. Let's see, on Hot Software, I think I'd like to stay with the Windows topic first, now that we're complaining about Windows in one mode. And on Hot Software, I guess I didn't put Windows 11 there. Hot Internet, not yet. Computer security. Let's start with computer secure. Microsoft issues urgent security warning. How urgent? It's all over the place the last couple of days. Do it now, instant. Don't even use the stuff until you do it. And the details are: a flaw was discovered by others about a month and a half ago. It's been in there a lot longer than that, and years. and a printing program is subject to getting infected by this virus, and basically a person can take over your computer's full control. This is not a good sign. So a month and a half later, Microsoft came out with patches for Windows 10 and for Windows 7, which they said they stopped supporting, but they come out with a patch for it. They have not said that Windows 11 does not need the patch, to my knowledge. I've looked in a few places. And on the other hand, they don't have one for it yet. So I don't know what that status is. And perhaps none of us will until they have what they want, like with this last round. But the word is out. You have to do it now, do it quickly. And if you aren't using one of those versions, tough. And just a little while ago, I found out Bob Premack had a very different take on it. Bob, can you share?
Yes, let me make sure I can. I am going to...
You need to unshare for him to share.
yeah, if you would unshare, I would be able to share.
Wait, hold one moment. Where am I in? Not there, not there.
Here, NatickFOSS.org.
Got it. And
No, wait a minute.
too much open by now. Here we are, maybe.
No,
No?
you're in Thunderbird. You need to be in Firefox.
All that needs to happen is the Jitsi share needs to
Here
end.
we go. Okay, first of all,
That one.
Okay, now let me see what I can do on my Chrome tab.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start with an article. Okay, this is the Ask Woody website, which is currently operated by Susan Bradley, Microsoft MVP. And Microsoft has indeed released an out-of-band update for the recent vulnerability referred to as Print Nightmare. And for businesses, yes, there's a big problem, and they should be patching immediately. That's if you have Active Directory, or if you have dedicated print servers, which most home users don't have. So Microsoft released this out-of-band patch, which I indicated. However, Susan says this: if you're a home user, she doesn't see a need to rush this patch to put it on. If you are in, are people hearing me? Hello?
I can hear you.
Okay, because I was hearing silence in the background. Not used to it. Okay, to continue what I was doing, so I'm still sharing that article. Okay, let me see if I can toggle the view. All right, Chrome tab, back to share. Okay, anyway, if you're a home user, she doesn't see a need to rush. This is because most of us do not have separate dedicated print servers. But if you are MSP or IT professional, that means anything in business, then you should disable the print spooler function on domain controllers, because there's a lot more than just printing involved here. And there are some label printers that are going to break. There's some other stuff that breaks. I think there was one other thing I wanted to scroll down to, which was the Print Nightmare article that Susan Bradley posted previously. And she distinguishes between if you do print or if you don't print. So it's kind of a question of, are you going to toggle this print spooler on if you need it for printing? Are you going to toggle it off again when you don't need it? Fairly easy to do. And there's also a possible workaround, which does not involve patching, in which I'm going to go to that link at some point. Here we are. This one here. Now, I may need to change my share. Okay, Chrome tab. Here's what the problem is. The emergency patch doesn't fix the problem. It only papers it over. And in some cases, it does more breakage than it's worth. And this is the link that I sent to Dick. And I presume it will be made available in the agenda as it is finalized. So there's a lot to process here. And basically, there are two things you can do. If you have a certain group policy enacted, then you need to change something in it. And there's also something with a folder permission, which I have not linked to. I have made a change in a folder permission so that there's a security block you can put that prevents a new driver from being installed in a certain way. So I hope that at least begins to summarize what the people are recommending, that if you're a home user, it's different from if you're a business. You're not as likely to be exposed to the internet in this way. So back to Dick and Jill.
Okay, thank you very much, Bob. Do you have one link that will include all of those items?
I would refer people to the Ask Woody site because it has several items and they are all free to view. And I did include the one link that says about the patch not covering the issue.
Okay, if you have any other links you want to send, just get them to me later today, and I'll bundle them in also.
Let me just put in chat how to get to Ask Woody.
Oh, well, no rush.
Yeah.
But thank you very much. And of course, my bottom line is I think you should quit your Windows right away and move to Linux. It seems like it's getting more and more obvious each step. Microsoft is doing their part. They're getting closer to what you want. Why don't you just get what you want instead? It's Linux. Now,
Share it. You need to share again.
right. To put my sharing on.
Choose the window.
This one?
Oh, here. Pull down. Whichever window it is. And then, no, you didn't choose one. You fell
Sorry.
off the bottom.
I have a slippery cursor.
And now you allow.
And now we can get back. It says, and that's not what I wanted. Come on, guys, there's one here that I want. That one, maybe? Yes, that one. Okay, so we've covered pretty much the front and the back of the meeting. Now we can go have some fun in the middle. Algot, is this a good time for you to introduce us to, let's see, I think you had two things. I know about Inkscape. Oh, of course. And maybe also cover the questions with Mastodon. Is this a good time, Algot?
This is a great time.
I'll go back and get lost again for that.
I think you're out, so we should be in reasonable shape. I am a regular user of the program Inkscape, which, Dick, you need to mute yourself.
Done.
I do a graphic to go together with a word of the day that I do and publish using Mastodon every day. And that has become a nice habit that I have enjoyed doing. It is a program designed to work with what are known as vector graphics as opposed to bitmap graphics. You can tell the difference between those two typically by the ability to resize or fail to resize images. When you do bitmap images, they tend to become very fuzzy and pixelated when you enlarge them too far. With vector graphics, what you have instead are directions for making the graphic, not an image. When you want to make it bigger, you simply export an image of the size that you want so that somebody can look at it as big as they want. Now, Inkscape has taken me years to learn. I'm not going to go too far today, but I would like to talk about some of the basics, and it's my turn to try to share the screen. So give me just a moment. And where are my options? I'm asking for a share of one window, but it's not offering me any window that I want. Window. Scroll does not give me choices. And I really don't want to do my entire screen, so let me cancel that and try again. Window. I am sorry to say that I am only seeing my Chromium in my case, window available for sharing, and that is of no use to you. All right, let me go one step further with Inkscape to a new document. Maybe the splash screen is not legal as a shareable window. There it is. Okay, I'm good. Unfortunately, I cannot show you the splash screen for the most recent version of Inkscape, but you should be seeing the new document screen, version 1.1. I am not as familiar with this as the one that comes with my preferred install of Kubuntu, which is Canonical's KDE version. That comes with 0.92. And it's a workable version, but of course you don't get all the newest features. But down the left-hand side of this screen, if you can see my large, beautiful black cursor, there are a set of things we call objects. And I'm going to start today by talking about objects before I jump into another similar topic. But objects are easy and quick. And I'm going to click to create a rectangle. And of course, it came out being white because that's the color I start with for a lot of projects. But now I've changed it to red. I did that by clicking on the color palette across the bottom, which has all sorts of basic colors near the left, along with a grayscale set. But as you go further off to the right, you get into other shadings, and it goes on and 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 on. Color is one of the basic things that people love to play with. So I'm going to play slightly by clicking on this object. One of the things you note when I click on the object is that the corners and the sides pick up what are known as handles, and that means that I can actually resize this object to be pretty much anything I want it to be. I can also duplicate this object, and you won't note that it was duplicated because it sits right on top of the old one, but I'm going to make the new one blue, and I'm going to position my pointer on the new one and drag it so that it is a little different position. So now I have two objects. I can make each one independent of the others. I can also choose to align and distribute them. And if I choose all, and quickly center one on the other. And if I were to change this inner one to black, I would have almost the tropical storm warning flag. I could spend a little bit of time and get the colors exactly right, but you get the concept. I have a great deal of control over objects. Now, with understanding that a rectangle is not the end-all and be-all, we can make circles, ovals, again, choosing colors that we like. We can even make, excuse me, circles that are not complete by changing the start and end points. I'm trying to wave my pointer and the cursor up above these rectangles and oval so that I could start at 45 degrees and end at 0, and I'd get, if I have it in my brain correctly, no, it didn't work. Oh, I know why. I said 45 hundredths of a degree. 45, a whole number. There you go. You can see that I've got controls on this little oval. Make it more a circle and it will look more like what you're talking about. The 0 point of the circle is at the right for no good reason. That's just the way the tradition of this program is run, but you'll get used to that because you can rotate these. You could have the start point anywhere, but as you begin the process, it's here. If I click this, I get the tool that allows me to rotate. I almost made a Pac-Man character here. I can also, if I return to the circle tool, I can gain control over the handles for a circle and manually change the way that the circle is formed so that I can adjust to my liking, even if it's not an obvious number. 74.659 is certainly not an obvious number to pick. Okay, that's all well and good. I have also shapes that I can make that are polygons. I can control their size with the same handle concept. I can change the number of sides by clicking the corners panel up at the top, corners control, and I can change the polygon to being a star of some sort, and then adjust the spoke ratio so that it is a more obvious star shape. Don't go negative or it'll overlap like that. I'm trying to sneak up on, there we go. Rounding is not what I want at all. What happened there? enter the number. There we go. A more traditional star, if you want the American style. Okay. On and on and on and on, parts and pieces and things. I'm going to stop with those three of the objects and refocus here by reducing the size of my view of the screen. Ooh, what did I do there? I changed my shape. Control Z. Universal, almost every program I know uses that to say back up. You made a mistake, fix it. In any event, I want to change so that I am looking at more of the image at a smaller size. I did that by tapping the minus key on my keyboard. Tapping the plus key lets me focus in closer. That becomes useful when I have what are called Bezier curves. That's a French word, so I don't really mean to say Bezier, although some of you may prefer that pronunciation. If I click, I make lines. What's so fancy about that? Well, once I have the line, I can go up to this left corner tool called Editing Paths by Nodes. And then I get handles, as I've had on objects, but instead of just resizing or rotating an object, I get to make the path of this shape anything I want. I can still color it. I can also invoke that curve concept and grab somewhere on one of the sides of this path and adjust it so that it becomes something I'm more interested in. This being a little bit more like a canoe, perhaps. If I wanted to work hard on it rather than doing this off the cuff, I'd spend a lot of time designing the look and feel of this canoe. One of the other nice features before I stop for today is that I can take this object and I can change so that this object becomes a path. I go up to the menu line and pick path and change this rectangle shape to be an arbitrary object. Excuse me, not an object anymore, but a path which now has 4 corner controls that are again independent. Now, one other little feature here that is nice about this is that I can add nodes. Each of these little rectangles along the surface are nodes. And all of a sudden, with control of the nodes by grabbing them while I'm holding on to the node handle, if I am using this Edit Paths by Nodes, I can turn one rectangular shape into pretty much any fancy other shape that I might be interested in playing with. I can also add the curves as I did before, and the overall result, I have total control of any shape I want. The fantastic part about this is I can copy and move these things. I can duplicate them. I can focus in on any group of them, I can say, let's not have the full page, which is an A4 European size page, but rather let us just, with the keyboard, focus in and call that our graphic. It's not all that fancy, but that near square is now our graphic. And if we decided to export that, it goes to a PNG, very easy to use on the web graphic. You can also utilize the actual underlying text of the SVG format, which is the underlying vector graphics, scalable vector graphics. If you do look at the text, just need a text editor. Any one of them will do. You can copy those parts out and actually get the scalable vector graphic to be used on your web page if that is something you play with as well. Now, I do graphics, as I say, every day. They are typically more interesting than this, and when I put my notes for today's presentation on the web page, I'll give that link to Dick, and it will show you some of the other things that I did not cover at all today. But before we go, anybody have questions?
I do. Can I ask?
Yes, please, Peter.
Since you refer to A4 as being the European standard of the paper, I'm just interested, sorry for off topic, but I'm really interested, what kind of paper size do you use?
In the US, we use a size that is, let me get to the right place. I have just put my screen control to show the document. A4 is listed at the top because that's the standard 210 millimeters by 297. In the US, we typically use an 8.5 inch by 11 inch US letter size. It's a little bit wider than A4. And then for those in the legal industry, we use a long version of 8.5 by 14. And those are pretty much the only paper sizes except for cardstock and things that are, say, postcards sent back and forth in the mail. But the default for this program is to come up with an A4. And if you were designing a worksheet page, you'd need to be sure you chose which one you wanted to be in view so that you could put your pieces where you wanted them. Now, I didn't mention it earlier, but text is easy to do too. Typing my last name. And I can use any font that I happen to have on my system. I have tons. My default, for the record, is Atkinson Hyperlegible, a free font. The benefit of it is that the letter I in capital has the crossbars of a serif, even though the font itself is designed to be a non or sans serif font. And that makes this much easier for those with sight impairment to figure out what they're reading. Because a regular lowercase l is sometimes what people see for an I, and that's often in a sans font, just a straight line. And that's indistinguishable from a capital I. Hyperlegible uses a little serif on certain letters to help make sure that they show up cleanly. Thank you, Peter, for your question. Any others?
Can I just add to this topic one thing?
Yep.
I was quite confused of that you decided to talk about these sizes of the papers because well, I usually use Inkscape for creating graphics that go somewhere on the internet, as you mentioned, you do as well. And what I do, I press Ctrl A to select everything on the screen, and then I press Ctrl Shift R to crop the document size to the given dimensions. So I'm not affected by the size of the sheet of the paper, but it would be the issue if you were going to print it physically. And so just a note.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's exactly what I do before exporting my graphics, so that when they're on the web, they show up whatever size I need them to be. Paper size is useful because one of the features of Inkscape is that it easily creates PDF formats. And if you're going to do a multiple graphic sheet and you want others to be able to get that off the web without having to install a special fancy program to do it, the portable document format PDF is the most commonly used. And that means most people can see it if they have a computer handy, because almost all the operating systems these days automatically handle PDFs one way or another. Now, as I said, I will post my notes from what I tried to go through today in a little more cogent fashion with links to some of the other things that I have done with Inkscape so that you can get a broader view, but I didn't want to try to give more than an introduction to number one, objects, number two, paths, and the basic manipulation of those two different kinds of shapes. After that, it's a creative horizon that has no limits. Wonderful tool.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm going to mute now.
Hi, Algot, thank you very much. I have used Inkscape in the past, a long time ago, for making landscape designs. And I think I'm about to make another one. And you've galvanized me to get started again.
And I'm looking forward to the second round on Inkscape one of these days.
Whenever you guys are ready, I have endless amounts of information about it.
Whoa. Okay. Thanks again. Algot, is this a good time to bring up the Mastodon question?
That would be fine.
Good. Please take over.
Mastodon is a piece of software, as we've discussed before. It's a server software with a client that connects to it for the web on a computer or a laptop. There are also clients to connect to the server for Android operating system, and recently, although it's not been too successful, a version for Macintosh. People have complained that there's no official Macintosh version of the client. That's changing because the developer of Mastodon has grabbed onto the job and it's in beta right now. But as you noticed, we actually got a new visitor. I hope he will become a regular person here on our monthly meetings. Peter from Slovakia, not from Germany. I'm sorry I made that mistake before. But he is here because I mentioned that we had these meetings using my Mastodon account. I think that more of us could enjoy our time using Mastodon by knowing who's from our group. We need not have our own server to make it work. You can join one of several different servers that are out there, not just the mothership, which is called Mastodon Social. I strongly urge you not join that because it's huge. And that means all the moderation of it is a bigger challenge to those who do the job of moderation. I have no complaints personally about accounts who are on Mastodon Social, but the design of Mastodon is to be part of what we call a Fediverse, a federated set of individually run community servers. We could have one for our own use, but it is not necessary to go to all the work to set one up. There are lots of good ones out there. Laura, who is also a member here, has recently joined. I don't see her here today, but she made the choice of Mastodon Scholar, and we communicate back and forth when the time is right. Dave Hunt and I'm losing it. One other person has, Bill, thank you, has joined their own server, which is a ham radio focused server so that they can work locally to talk to other ham radio enthusiasts, but they know my account name and I know theirs, and we communicate back and forth nicely. It is an alternative to the mailing list. The mailing list is fine, but some people are not interested in mailing lists. So I think Mastodon really has a potential for us, but it is social media and you have to sign in if you're going to do anything. You don't get an email delivered automatically that says, oh, look, here's a new message. So it has its parameters. I just think it's a great way to keep in touch and to share our creative work. I post pictures there, as I say, along with the thing that I call the word of the day. And that's just part of my fun. Every day, there it is. Any more questions on Mastodon and the Fediverse?
I have a question. What do we do and when do we do it? Can you simply set us up and tell us, here's our place, start talking?
No, I cannot do that because that would mean setting up a server. And I'm not in a position to offer that up. Now, Jerry, another member who I don't see here today, has set up services for this organization on the BLU servers, but my understanding of the Mastodon software is that it's very heavy, and he may or may not want to devote that much time, effort, and space to setting a server up. But for example, there is a technology server, and there's a FOSS server, and there are literally thousands of other servers out there that are mentioned in my article that we had, I think, 2 months ago, that's been updated a couple of times since. You should start at that article and then go make a choice of server based on the information that you glean. And then once you're there, just follow me at mastodon.art. And then we're together.
When I had to get a Mastodon account recently, since the Hubzilla server I was using went down,
Yes.
I just went over and did a search for game dev in Mastodon and found one that had the type of community I was interested in.
That's
I forgot to mention you, Dennis, but you're a longtime person connected to Mastodon, connected to the Fediverse, actually, because your former server was federated. You don't actually have to use Mastodon server software. There are 2 or 3 other kinds of server software that are out there, but I'm not particularly eager to try to set one up just for this user base, because there are good servers out there that are open and welcoming and just as effective as trying to set up our own. There are reasons to do a private setup, but I don't see it as the first step. If we got 40 or 50 people somewhere down the line, it might make sense to try to get a tighter community built around that. But if it's 6 who are there intermittently, 10 intermittently, coming from different servers is no impediment to communication at all.
We could probably just have a hashtag.
Oh, at NatickFOSS. Nobody else is using it but us.
that's what I meant to be proposing, Algot, not a dedicated server.
Alga,
On FOSS sounds obvious to me if it's no drawback.
Using a hashtag is just adding a column to your standard web browser client that says NatickFOSS, and anybody that mentions NatickFOSS with the hash symbol before the N would get shown up in that column. And you could follow that column as your main source of information. And that does not require a server at all. You can start from wherever you are.
That's
There's no setup involved. You just have an account, use a hashtag, and you're in.
Alga, I was trying to write down that address that you gave for the art group on there. Could you
put it in the
please?
chat?
Okay. By the way, Jerry Feldman arrived.
Yes, he did. Hello, Jerry.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
I'm doing some errands with my wife, and I had planned to be here on time, but got delayed. and my main computer is down.
Oh,
Oops.
No, it's not a big problem. I mean, I'm going to restore Linux on it, and I have my home directory already backed up.
Would somebody try the link that I just posted, make sure that I formatted it correctly?
Works fine.
There you go. And one of the options when you get to that screen is to ask to follow me. You have to have an account on a server before you can follow me. You can't just follow me as your own person until you have an account on some server somewhere in the world. Peter followed me from Slovakia. No hard, it didn't take 5 seconds.
hosting my own server on not Mastodon, but Pleroma. It's one of the like 3 you mentioned that are different, and this is less heavy than Mastodon, and it could be used as an alternative, but it explains or like it's an example of the federation that you are talking to, that different servers and even different pieces of software can communicate together, and there is like no barrier. So yeah, it's an example.
Exactly. Thank you. Jerry?
Yeah.
Just before you arrived, Dick wondered whether or not it was important and or possible for us to set up our own server. And I did not volunteer you, but I'll mention that you run the mail server for us. Is BLU's hardware up to the task, in your opinion, of running Mastodon, which is a pretty heavy load, especially if graphics are involved?
First of all, I don't run our listserv. I'm an administrator on it, but the listserv is running on Dick's system.
Okay, I had that wrong.
The BLU server, we've got one server right now, and it's a pretty slow server. And I'm afraid of it. I have a backup server that Lee Benjamin gave me. It's here. I have not been able to set it up. He gave it to me just before COVID. So I haven't set it up. But I also, all of our time on that system are donated by our hosting company. Used to be, I forget the guy's name it used to be, but it's got sold a couple of times. Synoptic.
Right.
But
I don't really think we need a server. As I said, unless we got a real dedicated group that just wanted to play on a local sort of approach to things. I think it's good enough for people to make their accounts wherever they can find a server that's stable.
I would agree.
And then off you go.
Yeah, we were thinking at one point to do a Jitsi server on there, but we get our bandwidth for free from Synoptic, and or actually we paid $12 a year, but that's legacy, and how long that's going to last, I don't know.
And running Jitsi bandwidth through it would be a good way to find out.
Yeah, I mean, the last time we had some spam and stuff like that coming through, and They actually charged us for the extra bandwidth. And we don't have much. Boston User Groups has money in their account, which I pay for this for, but Boston User Groups is essentially defunct. So, but the BLU really doesn't have any funds. And I do have the server sitting here that I can install. I have CentOS 8 I was going to put on there, but I'll probably get Rocky Linux or something like that.
And even less funds when we can't have lab days.
Yes. Yeah, our install fests used to make us a little bit of money. And we can't have install fests until MIT lets us back in. And I don't know if that's ever going to happen. So
I just followed Algot's instructions on creating a NatickFOSS hashtag and then pinning that hashtag to my column layout. So it'll be part of my default layout on Mastodon, so that if somebody else posts to that hashtag, I'll see it.
yeah, I've used Mastodon before and it works fine. It's been fine. I have to. So I've got to copy and paste the stuff. There. Okay, we got Algot's stuff in Evernote so that I can remember that and sign on to a Mastodon session.
For what it's worth, Jerry, I did not propose to do a server installation. I was simply proposing that we get the show on the road, get NatickFOSS just NatickFOSS, I guess, on some appropriate existing server. Get us established, get it rolling. That's all. So I think we're all together on the fact that we don't need to do a server installation, and I think we're all together that we'd like to try using it. So, Algot, can you simply plant us on some appropriate sounding server?
Once again, Dick, it's not a server issue.
I didn't mean that.
It is simply the hashtag.
Yep.
And when you are ready for your own account, if you use the browser web client, you will set up a column that is linked to that hashtag /NatickFOSS. Let me share my screen and see if I can go do just that so you can see what I have in mind.
I think what Dick is asking is for a recommendation for some place other than social art or radio that would be a reasonable place for him to subscribe his initial account so that he doesn't have to do a search of all of them.
Fosstodon.org was mentioned by Peter. That's a reasonable choice for linkage with the word FOSS.
I like it.
And that is an account that I think you can get without much manipulation. Some of the servers do ask that you give a certain small amount of information about yourself so that they can judge whether you're a good fit with their community purpose. But it's not as if you're giving away anything like crazy stuff. It's just, who are you? Do you have an interest in FOSS? Is that why you're here? If you say yes, you're good. If you say, oh no, I'm here because I like cookies, they'll probably not grant you an account.
On 2 counts.
There you go, 2. But again, it's a social media similar to Twitter in some respects, but it is not Twitterish. It is not commercial. It is moderated so that people with nasty habits are sequestered and kept out of the general flow of things.
It depends which host you're on.
Depends which host you're on. There are some that are nasty focused, I'm sure. There was a group that got together under the label of GAB, G-A-B, that were free speech, or as they called it, freeze peach, and just nasty. The majority of servers that I've encountered are very careful to prevent that from happening, to prevent people from feeling like they're being stalked or buried under hateful commentary. There are some very sensitive people out there in the federated universe of social media, and Mastodon has generally been considered a safer place than Twitter, Facebook, or any of the others. I highly recommend it because of that fact, because people shouldn't be inundated by advertising. They shouldn't be hammered by other people who are just nasty in spirit. And I've been very happy.
Well, thank you. I think Fostodon is the answer I was looking for. Good. Well, we'll see if we can get it rolling. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Let me see. Jill had a interesting one. If this is not for you, it's for some people you know. Now that it's summer, sooner or later we're going to get a good weather day, and you're going to go outdoors and say, "What is that plant?" Here comes Jill with your solution.
Okay, let me first share my screen. Hello, didn't want to open that yet. So I'm a botanist, and I belong to several groups on Facebook, which Dick would prefer that I wouldn't, but they're good groups of people.
Click me.
I understand the problem.
And one of them is Native Plants of New England. Another one is controlling invasive plants in the US and Canada and things like that. Well, one of the problems is, how do you identify the plants to begin with? And there are a number of apps that you can get on your smartphone that allow you to take a
Jill?
picture. Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
I think you're running into bandwidth problems because you're speaking through Dick's connection while sharing your screen. So neither one of you is gaining the control of the
You want to try yours?
network
Turn
at your
off
location.
your.
So if you could,
I'll turn on.
if you could use Dick's machine to do your.
No, you better do it on yours. Right?
No, I'm getting bandwidth problems with you too. So.
Oh, I'll turn off my sound. See if it works.
Turn off your sound. Turn off your microphone.
No. Okay.
My microphone. And turn on my sound. and go back to sharing, which there's a keyboard. What's the
Try
key?
a D.
No. Oh, wait a minute. Is that better, Algot?
You stopped sharing.
Oh, I did?
You were
Yep.
still sharing when you hit D to stop it.
Uh,
Now you're sharing, but you're actually sharing at.
okay. So there are a number of apps you can put on your phone for identifying plants. Most of them cost. And until I figured out which one I thought was good, I decided I wasn't going to try that. There's one called iNaturalist, which is a project of the California Academy of Sciences and National Geographic. And it is a citizen science project as well. So, you know, you can add things to it, et cetera, et cetera. But I was not finding it all that helpful with things, especially because I prefer to do my web browsing on my computer, not my smartphone. So Dick found something as he was browsing around, and it's called PlantNet, or it's at plantnet.org. And it has, in addition to the smartphone apps for both the Apple iPhone and for Android, it has an online version, which made me very happy. And then I tested it with some pictures, and I really like the way it works. So I'm going to go over to the web page here, and then I have a bunch of pictures I took this morning at the Natick library, where we have the garden club I belong to has a pollinator garden. And I just snapped a whole bunch of pictures, and I'll demonstrate a couple of them. So I'll just take the first picture here and drag it down here where it says, put your picture here. And it goes searching, 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 and it comes up with an answer. And it turns out that this is the correct answer for this flower at the library garden. And it also gives you a percent, what percent accurate it thinks its identification is. So I'm going to close this one, drop a different image. That's the picture now. Drop a different image. Wait for it to come up with its answer. And it is indeed Japanese spirea, but it says that's 93% sure that that's what it is. But I have a couple of other ideas about what it might be, and it gives the percentage of those. It does really well with pictures of plants that are basically the wild type. So let me skip over. I thought I was going to have icons. However, I'll just go, I can skip through these. However, here's a daylily. So I'm going to drag that one over. And garden plants where there are a lot of different kinds, it doesn't do quite as well with. I know this is not a dwarf yellow daylily. I think it may be the lemon daylily. I really don't know. But you can see it's got a lot more choices as to what it might be. And it's not telling you which cultivar it is of that particular plant. So yeah, I think it, but I really like the fact that it tells you how well it thinks it's doing. It did get one completely wrong as far as I was concerned. Can't remember which picture it was, but it's one of the better plant identification apps available, and it does have, in addition to the ability to run it through smartphones, it also has the online version, which I really like. It also, you can zero in world flora, useful plants, weeds of agricultural fields of Europe, invasive plants, useful plants of tropical Africa, useful plants of Asia, European, American, Canada, US, and Central America, Caribbean, Amazonia. So if you're in one of those areas, you can zero in on and not have it get confused by lookalikes from a different continent. And they even have specials for Provence, France. Anyway, I think it's fun. It's pretty accurate most of the time, and I will continue to use it.
Are there any questions? I guess not. Okay. That got fixed. All right. Let me see if I can make a switch here. Not that way. I just remembered. I warned you I'm not good at this today. Select window or screen, extra screen, allow. Am I there?
No.
Yes, I am. Good. Okay.
Sorry,
we're not going to finish today's list. I can see that. But let me see. We did finish everything up there. I'll give you one to play with, and it's a little different. QDirstat. QDirstat is a very nice tool for finding out what's on your storage equipment, your hard drive, your SSD, and how much of which and what part of it you might want to clean off carefully and precisely. And let's take a look at it. I have one here. That's not it. Here we go. I will click on it. And it's looking at my menu on my 1 terabyte SSD. And I'll say, don't look at everything. Just look at the user data partition, which is the main one, but does not include operating systems. This way I can use different versions of Ubuntu or different operating systems and have them all reference the same user data partition. When I was doing that with home, I found out different things tripped on it in different ways. Going to the separate one seemed to work better for me. Don't know if I want to recommend it for you, but I like it. So I'll go into that one. And once I'm in it, I'll bore my way down. For instance, well, let's look at all the junk at once. Let's say that one. I'll say, okay. It's tallying up. And down at the bottom, I can put it elsewhere or full screen. I have a picture of my hard drive organized by folders and subfolders, and with colors designating different types of formats. It's very easy to use and very helpful for many cases way to look. And you can bore into any one of them. Just click on it down here, click on it up here. There's a lot of data on each of those subfolders sitting up here. And I can look at pictures in general, and a lot of it is taken up by my photographs, as is no surprise. Here's a little bar chart, and everything's insignificant except for 5. And interesting where the space goes and when you want to clear some or get rid of duplicates. It does all kinds of nice tricks. I think it's self-explanatory as you play with it. If I remember, it was not in the Ubuntu Software Center, but it was in the Synaptic package manager, and which I look at right after I look at Ubuntu, have it up and ready to go. And I believe it was there. In any case, once you've got the name and you have it, I'll give you a link to the information about it, and I think you'll have a ball playing with it. It's much more graphic and user-friendly than most of the alternatives. That's a quickie. And let me see how I get back to there. Good. That's what I wanted. And as we're getting near the end of the meeting, I'm getting better at using Jitsi. I want to emphasize my awkwardness with Jitsi is my awkwardness and lack of practice. It works quite well. It's got a bunch of single button commands, and once learned part way, I think it will accelerate well. And it's running well. It's a good program. Let me see. I will mention a couple without going into them. Oh, I mentioned QDirstat is good for hard drive cleanup, storage cleanup. And I've got another article in here. This is a different link on the same topic. This one will tell you how to do the hard drive cleanup. You can read it later. 5 remote desktop apps. I thought this might be interesting for some people who like to work on another person's computer when they have permission, helping to get someone else up and running. So you can take over their computer, they can see you using it, and then they can try it themselves. Sort of like Jitsi shifting back and forth. Install Docker on Ubuntu. Well, Docker is one way to go virtual, and it's an easy one. And here's a good article on how to do it. And here's one on VirtualBox, also recommended as easy, goes well with Ubuntu. And it's rather different in the technology, but I think either one of them might serve well for people that, for instance, want to try a different operating system, but not messing up their current one in the process. They just want to try it on the side. Might be good for that. Lots of other examples too. Lots of other applications for it. Inkscape, thank you so much. We covered that nicely. Here's an interesting one. You remember our Prince of Korea buying out Freenode and kind of knocking it to the ground. Here's something else going on that's really interesting. Copilot is a really interesting independent FOSS program for generating programmer code. You pick the language, you tell it where you're going.
It
suggests the next step in your program.
It has
based
FOSS
on what
code
we've got.
as
How the hell does it do that? Well, the answer is by applying an AI project to look at a zillion programmer examples and picking the ones that are sort of like yours and predicting what yours will be based on what the others chose to do the same job. That's an interesting thought. Sounds great. And what could be wrong with that? Well, what could be wrong with that is it got bought. And it got bought apparently to make money on it later, although it's still free for personal use. And then what they did is they got all the data for the AI by running through everything on GitHub, which holds a hell of a lot of the free open source developer software talking back and forth, and it has the code. And they ran through all that code to see how to code. That was their source for all the information. Interesting. Now that Copilot has been bought, made proprietary, how do we feel about them having used the open source stuff for all the data? This is one layer deeper than the one I started with on Freenode. This one's doing everything wrong that Freenode did, but its source also is scraped from everybody's free open source code. This is a whopper. The question is, should they be sued or shouldn't they be sued?
Or should they sue
So
for having their stuff
scraped. It's getting really interesting. So you can go look at Copilot over here at this link, see what it is. It's fascinating. It should have stayed free open source. And I expect it will. I expect it'll have a different name real soon now. And here's the discussion on the legalities and practicalities of how many lawsuits we want to start all at the same time. And what is going on? How come all these people are buying? And how can they be buying? And who wants to step in when? And it's a puzzlement. The argument in here is, well, no need to sue them. Just rip it out right back from them like they did from FOSS and give it a different name and keep it under FOSS. Let them do what they want if they can get away with it. Let someone else sue them. Maybe Europe will do that. So I thought that was interesting. I didn't know this till I read it recently. Linus Torvalds, to whom we owe Linux itself. That's the Lin in Linus added to Unix and bent a little bit. So Linux is Linus. He's still in the game, and he's pretty outspoken. You'll hear a lot about it over here on this link. And he thinks Intel is really blowing it. They're terrible. It's time to switch to AMD. What I didn't realize is his main developer system, which we depend on a lot in various ways, is running AMD now. The stuff he's offering is now optimized for AMD. It's not a second cousin. It's not quite as smooth. Quite the opposite now. I might take that into consideration the next time we buy a laptop. Worth a thought.
Dick, I think
this is looking way ahead. I could have put it in FOSS history going the other way. But
Dick?
There's a new capability to design chip components, pieces within the chip. Chips are going to tinier and tinier components and getting more of them on the chip and running them on less power. And we already know that's been going on. Next generation of this is have to show up in a year or two, and it can serve as RAM and ROM concurrently, just allocate back and forth, and do a few other miracles as well. I think you're going to enjoy the article and decide if you want to buy your next computer now or hold off a bit. Well, I expect they won't be real cheap on the first round, just a guess. Looking through more like that, just to introduce you to what you'll read later. Tim Berners-Lee is at the heart of the internet, like Linus Torvalds is of Linux. And he's got a new company he's a partner in called Inrupt. And I believe it's bringing out free software so no one else can do the same thing. So he's starting ahead of time. And he's developing Solid. We talked about using, Mastodon, because it's decentralized. And Solid promises to decentralize the web itself and your user data that you want to make public. To decentralize them, you can decide what level of users get to see your stuff. You get to get on it, but no one place is holding it. No one place is controlling it and claiming to own it later. I think it's going to be very interesting. Good article on it here. And Interrupt itself is talking about it, or you can read the independent article. Let's see, PlantNet, thank you, Jill, good job. And here's another like it. Google Earth Pro is pretty neat. And once you use it, you're going to want to use it again, unless you find an alternative, and there's some good ones in here. So take a look at both and see what it is. Google Earth Pro, like everything Google, is monetizing you one way or another, and a lot of it involves tracking and re-aiming people that advertise on it to you. So the alternatives are quite interesting to me. Free alternatives to Google's public domain server. If you're getting your DNS connection through Google, read this. Algot, I think I'll put this off till next month, if that's okay with you, just because we're running so late with so much good stuff still to be mentioned. So I'll mention we'll hear this one from Algot next month, and I think we're going to like it. And we talked about Mastodon already. I had leaning into that. The Free Software Foundation has recently moved over to Mastodon. They're not the only one, though I think we should learn how to do it. And let's see, more things. Yes, we almost might have started with this article. Data security will face even harsher hackers in 2021. I think this came out at the beginning of this past December, looking forward, and by golly, they were dead on. It's got some good data in it you might want to look at as to what's weak, where they expect trouble, and I think it was just so dead on, it's astonishing. That's bad news. This one, like it, is watching significant cyber attacks from 2006 through the end of this past year. And you can look at what's been doing what to whom, and you'll find out a lot of the places you think are reliable haven't been all that reliable, and why we think getting across not just to FOSS, but to places that use FOSS is a good idea. most of the main servers do, for what that's worth. But the stuff on them, not so much. And that's a benefit for FOSS. It means you're majoring in things that aren't the main targets for the malware. So good to read these two and see what's apt to be coming. This one's hot off the press, a week old maybe, and a most recent one that got a monumental number of victims. Here's a gang that got stopped. Whether they got stopped permanently or not remains to be seen, but what happened is interesting. A good story on the bad guys. This one's bad news for a lot of Linux users. It's already patched, so just get the patch. But if you're using an RPM version of Linux, not Ubuntu, but I think Fedora is included, Red Hat is included, take a look, see whether you're in that list or not, and just do your normal updates and you'll be protected from it. But it's a report on what it was. Millions of Dell PCs vulnerable. The last I heard, this did not yet have a patch. That's it. I don't have more to say yet, but I'm sure it will have an update if there's an update yet. I didn't look today. Maybe it's there now. And here's one for people that are running a Western Digital MyBook Live NAS device. If you have one, you know you have it. Most people don't. If you have it, disconnect it first and read this second. Too many of these things going on this month, folks. Audacity, oh boy. Audacity is now possible spyware, and there already are forks. The question is what to name them. It's half as good as Audacity. One fellow suggested decency. I like that. Because Audacity now looks a little iffy too. And we have covered the Microsoft ones. I have two more kinds of fun for you. One I'll talk, one I'll try to demo before we quit. The one I'm going to talk looks neat. A Mars rover engineer for the real stuff with NASA has built a Mars rover in software in a program that was just waiting for it to happen. There's a 10-minute YouTube video on it, and click, enjoy, play with a Mars rover, maybe build a better one, or something else you were thinking of. Some of you are going to like this a lot, and I expect some follow-up on it from anyone who found out something neat to share with us on it. This is my own invention. I may not be the only one who invented it, but I like to play Mahjong as a way to stop. When I'm in too deep, I want to clear my head, come back with a fresh approach to what I was working on. And I go out and I play a game of Mahjong. I play other things too, but that's the one I go to the most. I thought it'd be nice if it didn't take typically 6 to 10 minutes to play it. I just want to go out for a little while and clear my head. I found a way to do it with the existing game. And we'll bring one up. This is the article, and it's where you can get the game if you don't already have it, and where you can get add-ons to the game like this that make really fancy versions of Mahjong.
No, that one's in there, in the one you have, I think.
I didn't find it.
Oh.
On the other hand, I may have pulled half of them out once upon a time. I'm not sure. Anyway, get the GNOME Mahjong. It's the one I recommend. What I'm doing will work with any, I expect. And you want one that has a timer like this. So it's marking how long you've been playing the one round. And I don't want that. I want to go out and get my built-in game of Mahjong. That's so you can learn more about it, but most of you won't have to. Come on, I don't believe it. Where's my built-in game? Okay. I was playing with it and must have slid it off on different location. No problem. Here's the one I'm playing, and be a little less distracting this way. Whoops, no it isn't. Unity tweak tool. I'll get there. That one. And here we are. And here we are. So this is a Mahjong game. Klondike is the one I have selected. I like it. There's other ones. In Klondike, you have a mess of characters all in even rows with 4 tiles that are exceptions. The one in the center is between rows. So is the one on the extreme left and the 2 on the extreme right. My game is incredibly simple. It's the existing game. You don't have to change anything. You just stop once you remove all 4 of those characters that are not in the regular rows. It's as simple as that. This character, these 2 characters. You'll probably have to remove other characters to remove those 4. But as soon as you remove those 4, you just go up here and look at the time. And the fastest, Jill got me beat on this one. I resent that. I'm going to get even. But she won one of my lives and I won it back. So she got down to 5 seconds. I'm only 7 seconds. You might go 4 minutes also. Depends on the luck of the draw and how clever you are. But all you want to do is remove those 4. I've also contacted the maintainers and developers of GNOME Mahjong. I've told them what I'm doing and that it's a simple double take on the same game. They can offer it as a separate mode on each of their games. And all they have to do is mark when those 4 are disappeared and stop the timer and give you an option to keep going if you want for the full game. I think it's easily done from what I looked at. And if it's not easily done, they're apt to do it soon. So it might turn into something that's absolutely delivered to you, timer, and stopping the timer and all that, and giving you an option to do it. But otherwise, it's a secret I'm sharing with you. And it's a really nice trick to try. Jill tried it and was not impressed till the 3rd time she tried it. And then she got good at it. And again, it's a quicker way to take a break, and I think that's a valuable thing aside from the game itself.
By the way, if you want to get this layout here, go up to the hamburger, go to Preferences, and go to Layout, and it's Ziggurat.
Ah! It's not only there. It was the 2nd one.
Yes.
Damn, I lost again. She's good. And,
so you want to put it back to easy, though, because...
So if you want to give yourself a hard time, is it that simple? And then I say, close?
Yes. Oh, that's a little different, isn't it?
I think we're going to have fun again. Okay, guys. Are there any other? Oh, I have one to add before we close. Let me go find it. It's in here somewhere. And no, it isn't. It's on my notes. It will be on there. Under questions and answers, I have one. I was going to ask it for right away, but I won't. The question was, do we go back to the Natick Senior Center for live meetings? My answer for my vote was going to be not unless we can keep these ones that you can participate in live and watch later. So I was going to put that out as a technical question, we have volunteers who do different parts of putting these events on. I'm grateful for that. I'm too busy as it is. And so my question was, do we have enough people who know how to tackle this if they want to talk to each other? On Mastodon, on Discuss.
Are you talking about a hybrid meeting?
And I'm talking about how could we run a hybrid meeting? What would the tools be and who would run them how? Is it practical?
Well, the first
And
question
my
is how
final
good
comment is no rush. I do not want to encourage the group meeting now while variants of coronavirus are rising and politically they're trying to ignore it as long as they can. No thanks. I don't want to do that to my friends. So, but in a few months, maybe this will be a safe question from that standpoint as well. And at that time, how would we do it if we wanted to stay online and in the room live? I have one extra thing I can add to that. Our friends at the Linux Computer Society have been investigating just this question, and the town of Lexington has also.
Not Linux, Lexington.
I'm sorry, the Lexington Computer Society has been looking at it, and so has the town of Lexington, Massachusetts. Well, I'll put in a report on what they've been thinking in here as a comment when we put it out, probably late tonight. I think that's everything. I ask all of you, does anyone else have anything else they'd like to add?
Yeah, Dick, I just want to mention that Q Durstat is available also on Fedora.
And I'll probably get out real soon now. Not that one. Not that one. Not that. Boy, I've got a lot.
You need to go to
Firefox
and stop sharing.
That's what I was trying to say. And maybe in here. And stop my sharing. And
what? You're out of sharing.
Oh, I wasn't sharing. Good. Okay.
Cancel.
So does anyone else have anything they'd like to add today? A question, a statement?
Well, I just want to mention that
I don't see any such. I thank you very much. Have a good month. We'll see you the first Thursday of the month in August. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Let the FOSS be with you.
Terry, go ahead.
Yeah, Q Durstat's available on Fedora.
Okay.
Just want to mention that I wrote a similar type of system, but I want to check out Q Durstat because it's on distributions. Mine is only available on GitHub. So, see you. I'm on Mastodon.
Sounds good. See you all next time.
See you next month.